Thanks for being here. My name is Mile Marker, also known as Madeline. This podcast aims to discover what it means to live authentically. I work to uncover tools to help me be most present in my life. Each episode, we will discuss themes like how to listen to your body, understanding ways to be true to yourself, and learning what deep fulfillment looks like. The episodes will also relate to ideas inspired by my 2024 hike across the state of Arizona. Let's do this.
Welcome to episode 11 of Musings with Mile Marker. On the 11th day of the Arizona Trail, I hiked about 10 miles, and this was one of the most beautiful sections of the trail. And the landscape was pretty simple. I have never been to Scotland, but I decided I would call this section Dry Scotland because it was sort of rolling hills, what I would imagine the hills of Scotland would look like if they were a desert. And I enjoyed the landscape of this section a lot, even though I was feeling pretty tired and the miles were challenging. And there's always a lot of anticipation when it's a day when you're heading into town. The day began near Reddington Trailhead and finished in Molino Basin, which is sort of the beginning of the Mount Lemmon section outside of Tucson. And the altitude was around 4,500 feet, which is why it was never really super hot in this section, because it was a little bit higher up. While I was listening to the audio to decide what I should find as a novel nugget of information or wisdom, I listened to the clip a couple of times and thought, this was a pretty normal day. And having a normal day is the perfect thing to talk about, because I think in our regular lives, we have a lot of days that seem like normal days and they don't seem extraordinary. And people often have this idea that they want to live an extraordinary life and they want their life to feel like an epic or a story worth becoming a memoir. And sometimes it's okay to have a day that's just similar to the one before it and similar to the one after it. But it's important to almost notice the little bits that make up a regular day, because that's still worth noticing. So without further ado, here is the audio clip from my 11th day hiking the Arizona Trail.
Today is Wednesday, March 20th, which means I think it's day 11. I felt so sluggish this morning, really fatigued, a little bit clammy. I was really struggling to get through the 10 miles. We stopped at Molino Basin because I was really having a hard time. We encountered a woman named Push. She was coming down on the start of Mount Lemmon. So she seemed nice. It was nice to just stop and be able to talk to her for a couple seconds even, to take a breather. And then Nick said, based on my general symptoms, that I was probably dehydrated or had an electrolyte imbalance. So he gave me a little bit of salt, just straight up table salt, to drink with the water, and it actually helped a little bit. While we were walking down, so most of the climb was the backside, and then we turned around and then entered the Molino Basin, and we saw an older couple with a dog, and we started chatting with them, and they offered to give us a ride, which was so nice. So they finished their hike basically to come take us down to their car. It was a woman named Charlie, a man named Keith, I think, and their dog named Rosie, Ruby, something like that. Maybe it was Ruby. Yeah, I think it was Ruby, because Rosie's the other dog. Charlie was very nice. She recommended a taqueria, so that's where they dropped us off at. That was really good. Her brother lives in Austin and runs a place called Atomic Athlete. His name is Todd. I think I actually know where that place is. I think it's near the yard, near the Dow. Then we went to the hotel. So I'll actually take that back. After burritos, we walked to this place called Summit Hut that they had also recommended, which is basically like REI, but it was amazing. It had everything we wanted. So Nick got a new Sawyer. I got some hand gloves since my hands have been getting roasted. He got new socks. We got some electrolytes, these fancy looking meal replacement springs. So really, really good shop there. And we actually saw Particle and Fancy Dan there, ironically. Then we picked up an Uber and went to the Hilton, checked in, went into the pool. The pool felt excellent. I'm like just really happy to be resting, honestly. Trying to figure out our next plan for mileage. I don't think we're going to stay another night here, but I am going to try to look a little bit into the miles. Maybe I'll find a thing. Maybe I can find a piece of paper to write it down, actually. But that would help. So we're figuring things out. I'm feeling better. I need to eat again. It is 4:30. Yeah, definitely need to eat again. But happy to be resting. I'm at the laundromat right now, and of course I walked to the laundromat and don't have my freaking charger. Having one USB-C has been the bane of my existence because of the brick and the phone. So I went to the thrift store next door in this laundromat strip mall, and they had this charger dongle thing. It's like the thing that we give out at Shoals. So it was $2.50, and it works, so I'm stoked on that. Now I'm just at the laundromat, got 22 minutes left on that. It would be so nice to get a leg massage. I don't know if we're going to do that, though. Yeah, happy. Body's still feeling good. Nick's going to the dispensary, hopefully going to get some topical stuff. But need to figure out what we're going to eat again for dinner. And then go to Sprouts also, which is across the street. So, hanging in there. I'm really happy for the Trail Magic that when they picked us up, honestly. Oh, and we saw Slowpoke this morning. She offered us more food too, which was really nice, but we didn't need any. So yeah, we're still kicking. Chatted with a nice man in the hot tub. He was here presumably on spring break. He was gonna go to spring training with his son to see a couple games. Like, sounded nice. He's from Maine, formerly Boston, now resides in Maine. So I'm gonna write some postcards, keep hanging out, put the dryer on, and yeah, keep hanging in there. The weather has been glorious too. Not that hot, like 70 and sunny, so can't complain at all.
What you just heard was audio from my 11th day hiking the Arizona Trail. I want to start in review of this day by discussing Keith, Charlie, and Ruby the dog. They were so helpful for us, and it was a great, very memorable version of Trail Magic because Nick and I were hiking down, approaching the trailhead on the Mount Lemmon Highway, the road back into Tucson, but we didn't really have a plan for hitchhiking. And I think we would have had service for an Uber, but the trailhead was still a little ways out from Tucson proper. So the fact that this couple stopped their hike or felt comfortable turning around from where they were going and said, "Oh, we'll just drive you into town," was so nice. And I was super grateful. And when I think about this interaction, for them, it was just another day, and they were using it as a chance to help these two grubby hikers. But even in my day-to-day life, and even in your day-to-day life as a listener, small interactions with strangers are definitely ones that get taken for granted. We really have no idea what people are experiencing or what others are going through in any given moment. And I felt like I've been conditioned to be a little bit wary of strangers, that I shouldn't necessarily approach someone or help someone that I don't know. And I think this conditioning is sort of harmful. I don't want to feel like strangers immediately pose a threat. Certainly, I don't want to be interacting with people. For example, the guitar man was not someone I was going to just approach. But these kind people on the trail acting generously was so nice. And there are plenty of ways that I can continue to act generously towards strangers. For an example, right now, the government is shut down and the SNAP benefits are about to be paused or not distributed for the month of November. And so something small that I can do is give some of my pantry items away. That's easy and that helps people a lot. And every day there's a chance to help other people. And I think being on the trail is an easy way to remind myself of this, because anytime I'm interacting with people, it's rare. So it feels more memorable and it feels almost sacred that these interactions could be really impactful in my day because they're so scarce. But interactions can still be very meaningful. And by giving other people the time of day and just smiling and listening to other people in passing, it can really change the course of their day for the best. Next, this is my shout out to Summit Hut, because when Charlie was talking about this place, I didn't really understand, but it's almost like a boutique REI. And this store felt like heaven incarnate, like truly the Garden of Eden. And buying the hand gloves really set me up for success for the days to come during this trail. It's just little moments like that of getting something that you need. You feel even more happy to have it. And of course, anytime you go camping, running water is such a blessing. A toilet that can flush is such a blessing. Even having temporary shade is really great. But man, getting those hand gloves really was the icing on the cake, or certainly one of the highlights of that day. Because I was in this state of mildly heightened strain pretty much the entire duration of the trail, I felt like my emotions were sometimes, the highs were higher and the lows were lower. Like I was a little bit, perhaps irritable is the wrong word, but the swing of my emotions was dramatic, and Summit Hut was a big high. I was so happy to be there. And conversely, arriving at the laundromat and realized I'd walked there from the hotel without a charger, I was pretty disappointed. I wasn't despondent, but I was frustrated that I was going to spend at least an hour or two at a laundromat and I didn't have the ability to charge my phone. So then going over to that thrift store literally next door and getting that charger dongle for $2.50, I was thrilled. And I still use that dongle to this day. It came in so handy. And it's a perfect example of just rolling with the punches. I think time and time again, this trail has taught me that things will happen that you cannot foresee, and you have to just act accordingly and without too much stress. Don't let it beat you up, because it's pretty normal and just part of life. I want to revisit the idea that we're trying to live lives that feel extraordinary and feel noteworthy and feel worth celebrating or worth sharing with the world. And I think perspective is really important to highlight this, because what may feel like an ordinary day to me on this trail could conversely be an extraordinary day for someone else, and completely out of the realm of normal or typical circumstances for them. And why I want to bring this up is that it's really easy to feel like we get in a routine with our lives, and that the routine we're in is just the way life goes. But talking to people with different experiences and connecting with others and finding similarities and also celebrating our differences is something that can happen every day in any moment. Something that in my current life I can say I take for granted is that I am presently fostering another dog from Austin Pets Alive. And while cleaning my house was somewhat of a hurdle that I faced when I lived in this house alone, I really cherish the ground being clean now, because the dog is named Copperfield and he is a slobbery dog. He's kind of a hound, and he has jowls that have a long glob of saliva hanging from basically at all times. And despite how much I try to wipe it with a towel, there's basically caked slobber on the floor often. And when I mop, I'm thrilled, but then he's still living here. He's going to drool when he wants to drool. And my ordinary life before, with clean floors, has become this new phase of, well, the phase I'm currently in has a dog that drools. So my floor may not be as clean as it typically is, but I will give him the love and safety and support that I can right now, and I will accept the quality of my kitchen floor for the time being, because that's my reality right now. And going on this hike and having a hard day was the reality I faced, but I still was so appreciative to be in a hotel room and to be able to say, oh, it's 4:30 and I'm hungry. I'm just going to go down the street and get food with the snap of my fingers. Is that it's nice to feel like there's a balance in life, because it brings you back to an understanding of what is really important in each moment, or savoring things that you wouldn't normally savor because they feel special. The last thought that I want to end on is the idea of living in an abundance mindset. I have really been embracing living in an abundance mindset lately, and it's a great perspective to have. I am feeling more gratitude by living in an abundance mindset, and I'll explain a little bit about what that means. So I'll compare an abundance mindset to a scarcity mindset, which is seeing a scarcity mindset would be seeing the glass half empty, or focusing on things that you don't have, or comparing things that you haven't accomplished to other people's accomplishments and just feeling generally less than. Versus an abundance mindset is having plenty and feeling full in your life and appreciating what is and not what could be or what isn't. Just this small shift in mindset feels really grounding. There is abundance everywhere. And I think, especially with the state of the world right now and the news media that we are being surrounded by, is not highlighting things that we have in abundance. It's not focusing on the good that is in the world. But I constantly want to surround myself with ideas and people and instances of abundance so that I can absorb this idea of positivity and create positivity around me. I think that this hiking day is a good example of that, because even though I was really struggling and feeling dehydrated and very depleted during the hike, I didn't want to complain. I made it back to the hotel and I was still feeling capable, and I was still feeling grateful, and I was still acknowledging what I had done despite it feeling difficult. And I didn't even know that I was trying to put this in an abundant mindset lens, but I think even experiencing challenges can be framed in a way that highlight the things that we have more than the things that we don't. And that is something that I strive to emphasize in my life and my surroundings today, especially. So even in my ordinary life, even in my day-to-day with Copperfield and his slobber, I know that there is so much abundance around me, and that I can create more abundance and I can spread positivity. And even though I have this dog for a few days and I can feel frustrated that my house is messy, and I can feel frustrated when he doesn't stay when I say stay, what have you, I can feel like I'm positively contributing by keeping him out of the shelter, even if it's for a few days. And I can spend time with people and give them good energy as well. So from my 11th day hiking the Arizona Trail, it felt like a normal day, but it was really, really a great normal day. And I will think of those moments on the trail especially fondly because I'm not on the trail anymore. And hindsight is something interesting to look back on, but every day when I think of the trail was an excellent day. I'm proud of what I accomplished, and I hope that you can find some moments that feel abundant and extraordinary today.
That concludes this episode of Musings with Mile Marker. Thanks for listening. The intro and outro music are from a track called Wake Robin, composed and recorded by my late grandfather, Bob Ackery. Cover art for this podcast was designed by Polly Morwood. Production and editing of this podcast were done by me, your host, Mile Marker, aka Madeline Ackery. See you next time.